Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session of the training. We are considering business development in today's training. So this is more like part of the last session of this week's training and the conclusion of it. So considering business development, like we said, like we've maintained throughout the session, please always ensure to take note of your questions. So at the end of the session, we can take them together. Just write down your questions wherever you need them clarity, and we'll take all the questions at the end of the session. Okay, so if we consider all through this week, all that we studied, we talked about service excellence, we talked about customer retention, customer loyalty management, and today we're talking about business development, which at the later end of the session we're going to be taking also the workplace professionalism. So let's just go ahead and talk about the business development training that we have for today. So in today's training, what we are going to be focusing on under business development, we're going to have an introduction to this particular subject, business development. So we get to understand what exactly business development is and how we can work on them as participants. Now, the essence why we're taking the various sessions of this training because at the end of the day, assessments when assessments are concluded, we discover the strengths and the of course the strengths are the places where each person is going to be um, directed at. So, but more importantly, this development is one of the major components for a success to be successful in this particular role. For each of the ones that has been done, even if you're handling the customer side, you need to understand, you need to be very much rated with the business development uh, 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 course training as well. Okay, so now in this course, we're going to be taking um, business development, sales prospecting, marketing and sales, then relationship management. These are the four key things that we're going to be discussing today. And that said, because there's so much to talk about, I want us to just go straight into business development. Okay, I think that said, please, I want to be very certain that the audio is clearer and everyone can hear me. Please, if you can hear me, if you can hear me, just I want to you to type in the comment section that you can hear me as well. So I'm very much certain that the audio is um, very much connected while I continue with the session. Okay, so um, okay, so if you can hear me, can I just see if the comment section there that you can hear me perfectly well, so I know that the not just okay. I think I get that. Great, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me just proceed with the what I was discussing earlier about. So now business development, the introduction to business development. What exactly are we what's exactly about business development? What are we talking about in business development? What are we going to learn here? Now, what is business development in itself? So it's just about the implementation of sales and revenue objective. So there's a sales and revenue growth objective for every organization. So the implementation of it is what we call business development. So if you find yourself in growth strategies for the organization, that's just what we're there doing. So and also another perspective to business development is pursuing strategic opportunities. So now, because we want to implement, or because we have been saddled with the responsibility to implement the sales and the revenue growth objective of the organization, it practically means that we are going to be pursuing the strategic objectives, strategic business objectives of the organization, right? Which will be implemented through building relationships and identifying new opportunities for the market for the products and the services that the organization provides. That's what business development is all about. I think that said, let's just go ahead to discuss further about the various stages in business development, which is sales prospecting, the marketing itself, sales and relationship management. So in business development, now as we're getting in, well, let's say we are new to this and we're getting into it. So, what are the stages we need to know? Okay, these are the things that we're going to be expecting. So, in these various stages of implementing business development, that's why we're saying that we're going to be encountering or going to be implementing sales prospecting. Then we'll go ahead to implement marketing. Then we'll talk about, we'll also implement sales and relationship management. These are the key stages of business development, which we're going to also be considering in details as we proceed into the session. I hope that is very much clear. If I will take that again, so I was saying the key stages in business development is sales prospecting, right? Sales prospecting, marketing, then sales itself, then relationship management. These are the key stages of business development, and we are going to be considering them in that. We're going to be considering each of them detailedly as separate and as separate subjects in the subsequent part of the training. Now, so what skills do we require as business development officers, right? So, what skills do we require to effectively function, to succeed on this role, or to become highly efficient as business development persons? What skill do we require? Do we need to prepare ourselves, or do we already possess? Now, one of them is the willingness to work. So, of course, willingness is one of the major attributes. I mean, here, attributes I'm talking about here right now. So, one of the major attributes that is required as a business development person is willingness. Sorry, not skills, willingness. So, now, willingness for you to explore opportunities, willingness for you to do things without being told. So you're not just going to be the person that's going to be. So yeah, and for business development people, they are not people that needs to be pushed around or asked to do like this or do that or do this. No, as business development people, we work with our intuition, we work with our initiative, we make use of our initiative, we know what to do at a particular time, and we implement it. That's what distinguishes the business development. It is more like a leadership orientation. You have to lead yourself, not to be more like you have to be forthcoming, not you are being dragged to do certain things and the rest of that. So that's because that does not fit in for a business development profile in the first instance. Okay, so then we'll go ahead to talk about the next attribute here, which is courage. Courage is very much important. Now, when we talk about courage here, what we practically mean is that there are going to be times where you might feel discouraged. Okay, take for instance, there was a certain time I was having some conversations with um, uh, some trainees as well, where we were discussing about our strengths with regards to managing rejection. For instance, as individuals, let's say, okay, I would like to ask that on, I would like to throw that open. So on a scale of 1 to 10, let's do a quick assessment on ourselves. On a scale of 1 to 10, how many, like if we were to approach 10 persons, right? Well, to approach 10 persons, and out of that 10 persons, and let's say at what stage or how many number of persons are we going to talk to, and they turn us down or they reject they reject our advancement, that will begin to tell on us. I don't know if you get that question properly. So I was saying, if we are to have a conversation, if we are to walk up to 10 persons and discuss a particular subject with them. So if we talk to the first person and say, "Oh, sorry, I don't have time." Second person, I don't have time. Third person. So at what stage? Is it the first person or at the second person or at the fifth person? So I just want to get your comments. So at what number will it begin to weigh on you? Remember that we're just doing on a scale of 1 to 10. Take for instance, that we'll have to discuss with, like, say 20 people. The same, but just let's do at 1 to 10 because it will help us with let's say percentage. So now, at what rate or at what stage will it begin to tell on you? I want to get honest response. So at what stage, let's say, is it at the fifth person or at the sixth? Okay, I see someone says at the sixth person. That's great. That's an honest response. Okay, so let's I want to okay at the fifth person, of course. So at what stage will the rejection begin to tell on us as individuals? So we know our strengths, we know our ability to socialize, we know our ability to throw off okay, I see someone saying at the 10th person. Wow. Okay, so the person is saying that that's Grace Abayomi. So you mean that if you walk up continuously to 10 persons and they all say no, the courage is still 100%. That's what you're saying, Grace. So I'm taking note of our conversation. Remember, there are reasons why we're having this conversation because I'm saying this to say another thing. by the time we are done with this assessment. So I just want to get more response. At least if I can get at least a bit about 10 response, that would be fine enough for me. So it's going to help with proper assessment, because at the end of the day, you get this feedback and use them to improve on the model of training. Okay, so but at the average of what we are seeing between 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7. Of course, we have 4 on the timeline. We have 8, but the majority of we have here is 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so now since we have 5, 6, and 7 being on the majority, so now what do we how do we handle how would we handle this rejection? All right, because now we're talking about courage in the first instance. That's why we're having this assessment. So now what practically means is, at this stage, how do we manage this rejection? That is where we are now, right? Because we are dealing with courage. How are we going to be managing that rejection? So I think someone who said the 10th person. Okay, it's after the 10th person. So of course I just discussing with only 10 persons, and these 10 persons. So it practically means that, remember, we are just using 10, right, as instance. So that 10 can also represent 100. Though. That's what we are saying here. That 10 can also represent 100, can also represent 1,000. So you're practically saying that you can have a conversation with almost 1,000 people, and yet you still not be discouraged. Should they continue to say that, oh, I don't have time, or they just begin to post you up and down? So they're saying that 10 will be the entire number is what you can deal with. Okay, so that said, so I think since Grace, can you just give us some hints? So what has helped your courage thus far? I think I just want to you reiterated that continuously that that 10 that you actually understood what you were saying in the first instance when you talked about that you can discuss with the whole 10% without being discouraged. So please, can you just, while I'm also, can you help me understand why that is what has kept your courage on, or how do you manage your rejection and ensure that the first person are rejected, the second person, third person, fifth person, nobody's giving you attention, and yet at the 10th person you are very much still courageous. So how do you manage the rejection? Grace Abayomi, I'd like to get, because that's more like one of the outstanding one. So I want to understand how you've been able to manage rejection thus far, or build your resilience over rejection. So I would like to get your reply while I continue with you, because we're going to discuss about that after. Okay, now, so in the bid of managing this rejection, right? So we're not just still going to just sit down and wait for Grace to give us a reply. So I'm just going to go ahead. But if we get a reply, we can analyze that and integrate that into what I'm talking about. So at this time, how do we now manage that rejection, right? Because that's what makes us much more resilient and much more effective and efficient with regards to business development, because it's not everybody that you're going to be reaching out to that will tell you, yes, I have your time and the rest of that. It might be, and the reason why people may be turning down is not because they don't want to pay attention, right? So now this brings us, I'm already now discussing what the major things that we can do with regards to managing that rejection. Now we have to sit down, right? Do an assessment, because this is exactly what we will also advise other people to do. So do an assessment. Am I meeting these people at the right time? Am I saying something that is relevant to them? Right? So because it might be something that is relevant, interesting, and at the end of the day, that's not the right time. If it's not the right time, I cannot, like, if let's say I need to be somewhere else and we are trying to say something else, I may be interested. Let's say just maybe I'll just ask you, give me flyer, just give me flyer, let me walk away, right? At the end of the day, I might just even displace it without even, at the end of the whole, I don't get the information in the first instance. So that's also, so timing is a major issue. So if I'm not meeting the people at the right time, so there's tendency that I might keep getting rejection over and over and over again, right? So what we are saying in essence is, part of the things to do with managing that rejection is to do an assessment, an overall assessment, to understand why are we getting a no, why are we getting that rejection, right? This will help our courage in the first instance, because by the time we audit everything that we're doing, we can be able to say that, okay, we're doing things right or we're not doing things right. So then this another thing that we can always do is the process, the process of reaching out to these people, right? The process with which you used to reach out to these people, is it convenient? Take for instance, I'm calling people and I'm just placing call. I'm placing this call. Let's say I'm making that call when people, of course, it has to be during work hours, but I'm calling them and it's not convenient for them at that particular time. They're in a meeting or they are not. Okay, what do I do? Can I request a call back? That's one of the things that I can do. I can request a call back, right? So that's that. Then another one can also be presentation. If we have a great if we have something great that I want to discuss with you, and the presentation, what the presentation is not great or is not convenient for you, who is the recipient or who is the other party in the communication and in the chain of communication, then it's definitely not going to be 100%. It's not. Of course, I'm going to get rejection. They should be prepared for it. So these are some of the things that we're going to be. So take a proper review. So this will help courage, right? Why we started discussing about this or taking this assessment right here is about courage. We're discussing about courage, that these are some of the things, the attribute that is required as business development persons. Okay, so I don't want us to spend so much time on that. We have a whole lot to talk about today. Then we say smartness. Now, being smart is one of the key attributes of um, being attributes is one of the key attributes of business development. Now, when we're talking about being smart here is one ability to read the room, read at least get some basic details about the person that we are trying to engage, right? So these are the key. This being smart is one of the major things. Read the room, find know the best time to, because that's just one of the things that I just talked about now. Know the best time when is it best to have this to engage with this particular person. So this would help a great deal. Then socialization is one of the attributes. I understand the fact that not everyone um, have that socialization skill. Of course, we have the different ways of our upbringing, which may have impacted our mode of socialization or our level of socialization with people. So, but it is very much important, regardless of the upbringing, because now we find ourselves like you find ourselves posted in this particular department that is in business development. It means that we have to work on socialization. Now, it's easy to socialize. Take for instance, you had a background where you never socialize with people. So now, one of the major ways of starting it is just by attending events, right? When you attend the event, just hi, hello to people. You don't need to know who the person is. The person starts, hi, good morning, hello, good morning. Just because we are in a place where we have something that is in common, right? We attended an event, so that event brought us together. So it's easy to socialize with the person and say the person next to me and say hello, good morning, ask some questions, how are you doing, and the rest of that. Introduce yourself. That's more like a way of breaking off from the those that is more like the confined shackles that where we can't find ourselves socializing with people. Because if you are going to have a conversation with someone, we need to know how to start that conversation in the first instance, right? So by doing it, find out ways from time to time. You become good at it just by just greet people, talk to people. And sometimes, let's say, for instance, one of the major, that is two major religions we have here is the Muslim, the Christians. So now, and for Christians to go to church, if you go to church, then there's an opportunity for you to meet with people, right? After the service, talk to people, just open your mouth, talk to anyone that's sitting close, like just this is one of the ways of socializing because once people are brought together for a particular objective, just like when you go to churches for service, right? So it's easy for you to socialize there. That is one. Since you go to mosque and you're praying, after the prayer, it's easy for you to socialize there. Now, because what we're talking about that is not the socializing that we have within our sphere of influence. It's easy for you to just talk to your family members, your friends, but those people you have known for so long. But we're talking about reaching out to random people that you never know before. Of course, hesitation. You don't know how they are going to react. That's exactly what That's exactly what we want to work on and break. Right. So in that instance, for instance, you meet with them random strangers, but you meet with them in church, right? You have something in common. You meet with random strangers in mosque, right? You have something in common, which is about that the service that you keep there for. So by the time you discuss, just talk to somebody, hi, good morning, or good afternoon, whatever it is. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, and just start a conversation. And by that, you begin to build your ability to socialize with people. that's just where we are, right? We're talking about socializing and how you can begin or break loose. So in case you have a background where or you grew up in a background where you found it difficult to socialize with people. So that's what we just talked about now, how we can break through with socializing. Of course, by the time you're doing it, you get better at it. Okay, this brings us to the next one that we're talking about here. The other there's the other attribute, which is communication. Now, when we're talking about communication here, now we're talking about our ability to reach out to pass a message, right? So it's not just we blow grammar, and at the end of the day, speak up having a lot of conversation. Please, for every of the questions, just write it down so you don't forget it, right? Write it down so you don't forget it. We'll take all of them together at the end of the session, please. Okay, so like I was talking about communication, it's always important that when we are communicating, we want to hold communications, right? We are very certain that the end goal is what to make to pass a message. So if the message is not clear, then there was no communication in the first instance. So the message, when we're talking about clarity of the message, it means the other end of the recipient, that's the recipient's end, needs to understand what was said, right? What was said is very much important. So it's not at the end of the day, we've said so much. And the other part of the recipient, that's the recipient's end does not even understand anything that we are saying in the first instance. All these things that we are saying now, of course, we're going to see how they translate because it's just like our everyday life that we bring into business development. It's just like our everyday life. That's why you find out that people who succeed effectively in business development is this basic attribute that we talked about help them to succeed. And it's something that they just do on a base like this, just like they are a second nature to them. It's what they've been doing on their day-to-day operation, on their day-to-day life, right? They do so they just bring it in into business development and they excel. So that said, okay, so now, okay, I think I was trying to read. I'm not going to be taking any questions, please. I will take that all the questions at the end of the class. Okay, so that said, like I just talked about, the list of that's a summary of all the attributes that will be required in business development. I'll just give a summary on that again. I talked about the willingness to engage an objective or to engage an objective that have been assigned to us, willingness to engage it and to execute it. That is one. Then two, we talked about the courage to execute them. Then, while we're discussing courage, we talked about at what stage do would rejection begin to weigh in on us, and we talked about how to handle it. Right? We talked about smartness. Then went ahead to talk about socialization. Then finally, we concluded with communication. So these five key attributes. There are more attributes actually, but we just want to focus on these five key attributes because they help or they form the major backbone to excel in business development. Okay, that said, I want us to just quickly move on to the part two because we have so much to talk about. And within the timeline that we have, I want us to be able to have exhausted it. Because remember, at the end of the day, we still have some questions that we still have to take your questions and ensure that it is properly sorted out. Okay, the second part of it, remember we talked about sales prospecting. In the while we're considering business development, we talked about the various four stages of business development, right? And we made mention of sales prospecting. We made mention of marketing, sales, and relationship management. So now we're going to be starting with one of those key stages in business development, which is what sales prospecting. Now, what exactly is sales prospecting? So let's start with that part now. This second part that talks about sales prospecting. Now, if I'm going to make sales in the first instance, or if I'm going to engage in business development, I need to first of all prospect for sales. Now, what does it mean to prospect for sales? It's just all about identifying and contacting potential customers in order to generate new sales, right? If I'm going to make sales in the first instance, who exactly am I going to sell to, right? Where are they located? How do I even find them in the first instance? Where and when do I go to find them, right? These are questions I'm going to be asking, and this forms the sales prospecting, right? I begin to build a persona, a buyer persona. I begin to build a profile for the kind of person that is feasible, that's in line with what the organization is selling, right? So this is what sales prospecting is all about. Our ability to find and engage. Now, in finding, I'm asking questions. The question I'm asking myself those questions, and practically, it's more like a research. I'm trying to research on this particular thing. Okay, where do I go? Where do I go? What doors do I knock on? And the rest of that. So, who actually needs this product, or where actually can I sell? Can this product be sold, or where is this product required? So this is where sales prospecting comes in. I'm asking myself those questions because I'm looking for answers. I'm making research to find answers to those questions. And answers to those questions are practically what delivers on the road. Okay, so now if I will summarize that sales prospecting again, so in a nutshell, I'm saying that sales prospecting is identifying and contacting potential customers in order to generate new sales. Secondly, I can say sales prospecting is finding and engaging qualified sales leads and setting the sales process in motion. So now, if I find and engage the qualified leads, right? This before the leads became qualified, it means I have done some background work on them to qualify them. I say, yes, this is the right person to sell to. Now, why do I need to prospect in the first instance? Why should I be qualifying these leads? Right? So it's not just all the leads that I just find out and I just engage, or I just don't walk to any random person to discuss about and tell them about the sales. Okay, now because why is it important? So I don't end up wasting my time and wasting resources. I'm going to talk about a specific experience with regards to this sales perspective. Now, I was just conducting a field research. Then I find out while I was standing by a particular spot, there was I think there was a point of sales person just by the side there. Then there was a marketer who was marketing real estate, and as well as not that an arm of real estate, but that's the hospitality. That's where you have where they lodge. That's more like the chocolates. I think I will let me. That's the right word for it. So it was marketing the chocolates. That is the chocolate arm of the real estate of their company. So now their company is a real estate company, but they also deal in chocolates. So now I am bringing flyers, right? I am talking to the POS person, telling the person about the chocolates, right? And I was just standing close by there, and I just overheard what it was, what the marketer was saying. Okay, so and I found out, wow, the marketer is practically marketing to a POS person, right? You know what the POS person does, like people who assist with that's with cash in exchange for transfers, right? So you're making such marketing you are marketing to such a person for this product or for this service that your organization offers. Now, and how much? So at the end of the day, I found time to say, please, can I just see what's come and market to me? Let me even know what you are talking about. And then after I had finished marketing to the POS, I said, come and talk to me. I'm interested in what you're doing. And so I asked some questions. How much do you guys for a room for a short stay? And I was so the bills were coming. I was saying, oh, for a short stay, you have like 30 to like the minimum is just 30,000, or even that we have 30, we have up to 100,000, 120, 150. So for a night. And at the end of the day, you're talking to a POS person. So I didn't say anything because that's not like they never hired me for consulting, but that was a wrong approach, right? So, but if this proper prospecting has been done, he would not have found himself talking because that was a waste of his time being a business development person, speaking to such that person who the POS person that he was talking to was the wrong person. They of course does not have the capacity to buy or purchase that service and would never need such a service, right? At that particular place. It's not like okay that they have to travel out of that particular state. No, this is just exactly within the place where this person is still doing their business. Of course, it means that their home is close by. What are they need? What do they need the short stay for? So that was the wrong buyer persona that he was marketing to. So he never had a proper orientation about sales prospecting. So and he was busy wasting time and also sharing flyer. Um, Passing forth the flyer to the wrong person. So this is more like a waste of the company's resources in the first instance. So this is one of the issues why it is important that sales prospecting needs to be done so we can understand who, where, and when to sell, right? So you can imagine in this instance, it was the wrong place for the guy to, for that marketer who is that's real estate marketer to have sold to those people. So it was the wrong place in the first instance. And the person, the prospect that they were trying to market to was the wrong person. They did not have the capacity to buy, and I'm not certain that they would ever have capacity to buy. One of the things that they can do is possibly make a referral. That's what. But how do people refer things that they have not used in the first instance? Is it going to be that effective? One of the major ones is that when people have used the particular product, it's easy for them to refer. Okay, that said, I've spent so much time talking about that. I think with this now, I think it's much clearer that we now have a better perspective of how prospecting, sales prospecting, helps us to curb some of the issues around sales, business development, and marketing. So one of them is that we don't waste time, we don't waste resources, we don't spend so much time pursuing like a dead end deal. And this person does not have the capacity to buy in the first instance, so they cannot even buy. They will not even need it. They don't require it for anything in the first instance. So it was a wrong move. Okay, let's go ahead to talk about the next one, the steps to prospecting. Okay, so now one of them is market research and survey. Now, these surveys that we are doing on market research about the guys to understand what kind of persons. Remember, I've been talking a lot about identifying the right and ideal person to that will need this product or that needs the product and the services of the organization. Now, why is this very much important? You're not sitting there and waiting for your marketing manager to come and do all this, or your business development manager to come and do all this for you. No, because it is if you succeed, you are succeeding for yourself on that role, right? No, you're not succeeding for somebody else. You're succeeding for yourself on that. So if you know your job very well, you know the job very well, and you're doing it very well, then you get more results, right? So this is one of the major. This is the major difference between those who succeed in business development and those who fail at business development by understanding what is required of them and also implementing it as they go. Okay, now the steps, like I said, one of the major steps is that survey and research. So that survey we're talking about is into going into the field, understanding. Okay, so we're asking those questions, right? Who am I to sell to? What kind of people require this product, and the rest of that. So I'm asking these questions. I'm like I put myself in the shoes. Who are the right people to reach out to? So by doing this, it helps me understand who I can discuss or who I can engage at the end of the day, and I don't waste my time. Then I create a buyer persona, right? So that's more like a profile where I can find them, where I can reach out to them. Where are these people? Where are these people found in the first instance? People that when can I meet them? Where can I meet them? How can I meet them? Right? But then I ask myself those questions, ideas will come up. Now, what we are saying in essence, there's not like there's a wrong way to it because, for instance, now if we're posted to real estate, the audience there is different. If we're posted to FMCG, the audience there is different. But if we're posted to travel, the audience there is different. So different different strokes for different folks at the end of the day. So, but what we're trying to say in essence is that a proper buyer persona is created, then we're going to build a prospect list. So, at the end of the day, now, once we've done a market survey, create a buyer persona, that's the right person that we can sell to, who has the capacity to buy, and they're willing to buy, and the person starts, and where we can find them, how we can find them, and how we can approach them and communicate with them. Once this has been done, we go ahead to now create a list. So now we're picking out their list, identifying them one by one, and bringing out their list. So if we have a means of contacting them, now we begin to write out those means of contacting them. And once this list is properly built, then we can begin to establish the communications channel. The communications channel is it going to be online, via telephone call, social media? Is it going to be a face-to-face conversation? So it all depends on the method of confirmation and method of communication that suits that particular buyer persona or that suits that particular market. If I put it that, I think I'll put it that way, that suits that particular market. So there's a communication channel that is much more easier and that is better to reach out to them. Then we'll go ahead to talk about starting the conversation. So we'll go ahead once we've identified and established the communication channel, we start the conversation. And we begin the conversation. That's the business conversation immediately. Then we can go ahead and review results consistent. That we review our results. So we do that's when we engage. We review the results. Is it positive? What did we do right? So if we got it right in the first instance, or we got it right at the first shot, so now we're going to document what did we get right? How did we get this right in the first? So we need to implement them. Of course, one stroke will not fit for everyone, or it's not just one size that will fit for everyone. We might try somebody else, and the same approach that worked on A does not work on B. So for each person, remember we are dealing with individuals, we're dealing with people here, and their everyone is unique in their own way. So by that, it's much more imperative that we know that we always have to adjust when we compare the results that we've achieved or the result that we're getting. It means that we have to make adjustments accordingly. Okay, so if I would run through that steps again, say the steps to start sales prospecting is conducting a market research and survey. Then two, we go ahead and create a standard buyer persona. We build a prospect list. Then we establish a communications channel. Then we go ahead to implement the conversation. That is, start the conversation. Finally, we are going to be reviewing the results and making adjustments where required until we'll get a perfect fit or we'll become better at that sales prospecting. Now, how do we prospect for sales? Okay, so now we create an ideal prospect profile. Ideal prospect profile, we identify ways to meet this ideal prospect, that is this ideal prospect. Remember, I made mention of that in the steps there. But now the how in the prospecting is much more detailed, right? Now, how to we prospect for sales. So we create an ideal prospect profile. Like I've talked about that earlier, I'm not going to go into much details again, so it's not much more repetitive. They will identify ways of reaching out to this person. So which of them is going to be the best? So we've identified the different ways of reaching out to this group of persons. So we find out which of them is better, which of them will be the most effective, which of them will be the most cost effective, right? We're saying which of them is the best. Of course, we're going to the best is going to which of them is going to be the best will come at the tail end when we've checked which of them is cost effective, which of them will be the most effective. Remember that it is cost effective. I mean cheaper, right? That it is cheaper to use this medium does not mean that it is effective in the first instance or that it will be effective. The most effective um, the most effective method of communication might be even much more expensive, right? The question is, there is desired result. Can you deliver the desired result? That's what we are after in the first instance. Of course, whatever it is that we require, the auction should be able to provide them. Okay, then actively work on your call list. Of course, if we're going to be reaching out to them via phone calls, then we're going to engage actively on the call list. If it's going to be via mails, then we're going to be sending personalized mails um, practically to each of the prospects that we find. Then another method of prospecting is asking for referrals. Now, if we had um, already existing clients from the organization, one of the best ways is to reach out to those existing clients of the organization to get leads from their circle of influence, right? That's one of the most best and surest way, because if they've been satisfied, it's easier for them to recommend their or bring their friends or tell their friends about the product or the service, because now there's trust among their circle of influence, right? And by saying that, so it's going to cut the task for us as business development people, because the person just saying, okay, this particular person asked that I speak to you about this. So, oh wow, okay, I know this person is my friend or she's my friend. At the end of the day, they give you a listening ear and they listen to what you have to say. Then another one is this more like in, ingraining yourself into the subject. So now for the product that the option offers, you need to understand the details about what um, is being sold and how to sell them better. Okay, I think um, finally on the list is follow up and thorough follow up. So when we're doing a follow up to that is to the prospects, it's very much important that we pay close attention to our method of follow-up and the effectiveness of the follow-up. Now, what does it mean to follow up, right? What does it mean to follow up on? So if we have reached out to certain prospects or sent mails to certain prospects, so we don't just leave the mail like that. So from time to time, let's say after a 3 day interval or after a so that is more like 48 hours, we can do another follow up on that mail that was sent. Can add include phone calls because you need to also pay attention to the fact that this these people also have other activities. So it's not just all about what we intend to sell to them or what we intend to discuss with them. So they have other activities, they have other engagements. So it means that we need to find or give them time to also pay close attention to what they are doing, even while they find time to attend to us. So it means we'll do our follow up and we'll do our follow up rightly. So you're giving the person time, possibly at 3 days interval or even after 3 days. We've done the first 3 days and we're giving them some time to reply. And after another 3 days to reply again. So that's that. So we can we're not just doing that more like a reminder consistently. But if there's a phone number, we can do it. We can reach out and put a call across, or we can give some time. So the question is, at the end of the person is going to give a response either to a request that you allow them um, sometime to respond or to go through what was sent and now respond. Okay, now, of course, one of the basic details. Now, let's talk about the details. That's the of sales prospecting. Now, the basic examples or the features in why we are profiling our prospects. So, if I want to profile prospects, right, one of the key examples that always play out is age range. Now, their age, of course, their age, their gender, their status, their location, nationality, complexion, education, occupation, budget size, etc. Now, I'm just going to pick some few things here and discuss with them in relation to the example that I gave earlier with regards to that with that real estate marketer who was marketing shortlet solutions to the POS agents, like I told you earlier. So now I'm going to take points. I'm going to ask. I'm going to make some reference with regards to this profiling now. Now, if you watch from what I said earlier, okay, now with regards to age, now that's that business development person who was marketing to the POS agent now was discussing the person that they were discussing that the POS agent that they were discussing with when it comes to age, the was a lady and the lady who was being marketed there. I think if we give or take should be within the ages of between 35 and 45. So that's within that age range. Okay, so therefore within that particular age is okay, or 35 and above. That's okay. Of course, they have such capacity. I'm not saying that somebody with below that does not have capacity to purchase whatever it is. Now, I made mention of something else in this profile. I was talking about budget size. So now this is where this person becomes disqualified. Do they have the budget size to spend a night that is in a shortlet and pay like 120, right? Just a night and pay like 120 and they're just doing POS there. So do you think that it can't work, right? So that's just more like the wrong target audience if you put it that way in a nutshell. So when we're talking about profiling the prospect, we're saying the right person to reach out to should have some of these basic things. When it comes to status, it falls off that the status of people that I should have, or that the business development person who was marketing that solution, that shortlet solution, uh, made a mistake by marketing to such to the POS person. It was a wrong move in the first instance. So they never fell within the right profile. So there are other things. Then when it comes to both location and the rest of that, then nationality of those ones are out of it. Now, when it comes to now, let me give other. Let's say, let me give. Uh, uh, okay, what's the time? Oh, we're actually out of. We've spent so much time already. I may not just give other examples. I think the example I just gave is very much enough. Okay, let me just go ahead and move to the next part, more like the part three. Okay, so now let's go on to the part three, which is in the marketing. So now let's talk about the marketing for with regards to business development. So we remember when we started from, right? We try to understand what business development is all about, and we understood what business development is all about. Now we've talked about sales prospecting, right? Once we're done with sales prospecting, and now we're talking about marketing and sales. Okay, so now let's discuss to understand what marketing is all about with regards to business development here. So now, the brief speech highlighting the detailed information and features of the product or the services that we intend to sell is just what um, marketing is all about. So now, this marketing that we want to do, what we intend to do is to create an awareness, promote the product or promote the service that we intend to sell to the prospect, right? Once that is done, the, that that entire activity is called marketing. When it comes to that business development, it's called marketing. Promoting it, creating the awareness that is required for that prospect to purchase. That's it. So that's marketing for them to make a purchase decision. At the end of the day, the aim of that marketing is for the prospect that we're engaging to make a purchase decision. That's the goal. There's always a goal at the end of marketing. It's not just only to promote or to create awareness of the product or the brand. It's also to get that prospective buyer to make a purchase decision or to make a buying decision. That's what marketing is all about. So we highlight the basic, not just the basic, all the key features, all the features of the product. We promote it, we talk about them, right? Help the person understand, yes, you need this, and we have a solution like this, and this particular solution that we have practically meets your need. And at the end of the day, we want them to make a purchase decision. That's marketing in the first. So that's that. Then let's go ahead to talk about why I will now want to hold this marketing pitch, or why I want to hold this conversation with regards to marketing. One of the major things that is in the components that form the details of that marketing or that pitch, marketing pitch that will intend to deliver to such person would include the brand story, right? The brand story, the problem that is on ground, then the solution, of course, the solution, the testimonial, and the pricing. This practically makes it very clear so that it's very much important when we want to hold a pitch, when we want to discuss or engage that's a prospect. One of the key things to look out for is the brand story, right? The brand story, then the problem that that the product solves, the problem that the product solves, then the solution that it provides. And we'll talk about the testimonials, we'll talk about the pricing of the product. So these key components form the marketing pitch. Of course, by the time we're setting out, there are going to be templates that will be shared with us to work with. Templates, marketing templates that will help us. But it's important that we understand the basics, right? This is what we're doing now. But by the time we are setting into the role, there are going to be templates that will be shared. But we're not. If this, like I've always been saying all through the training, it's not like we're going to function as robots. The essence is so that we can function independently. When we're functioning independently, we need a basic knowledge to know exactly what we are doing in the first instance. So now I'm just going there to go and read out some, just like working as a robot, repeating the same thing over and over. The spice up or the different approach to it is what makes it much more interesting, right? That's certainly why we're having this conversation in this instance. Okay, the characteristics of a good pitch. Now, if you're going to be when you're having a conversation, right, with a prospect, the characteristics that is what makes that pitch a good one or a great one is the content, the quality of what you are saying, the content of what you are saying. When we're talking about the content now, how there's how does this solve the problem of the prospect? So meaning that you have to identify the problem of the prospect. Now, how it solves their problem, that the solution that's that you bring, and how it solves their problem, and the pricing, right? These are the major content that makes it that makes the content that's the pitch um rich. Then we'll go ahead and talk about clarity. Clarity is about how that's presenting this solution to that prospect. It is clear. Remember, I said something earlier about communication. So when we found out that that this thing is clear, It's clear enough for the prospects. They understand what we are saying. It's not like it's very ambiguous, no big grammar there at all. That's why we have to come to the level of whoever it is that we are marketing to. So it's good that they can understand us very well and it's clear. They'll talk about information. Now, when we're saying information here, it means this person that we're informing this person about this product, clarity. So that clarity of what we are saying makes us believe that this person has been informed about the product and the services. So it's not that we are just saying, talking and talking and talking, and at the end of the day, the person is not even understanding what we are saying in the person's stance, right? It means that we did not even communicate. Then finally is the presentation. We're taking our presentation here. We're also making reference to ourselves, our composure, every single thing about ourselves while we're holding this the pitch with that's with the customer or the client. That's I mean the prospects that we intend to engage. Okay, that said, let's quickly move along with we're spending much time already. Practically wanted to use just 1 hour for this session, but we spent so much. Okay, so now in pitch writing, of course, one of the basic things to do is always good to conduct a research. The steps to conduct a research to understand the audience. We've discussed some of these things before. We'll create targets, that is targeted content, share success stories, of course, and at the end of the day, answer questions and follow up on the prospect. Take for instance, if we're going to be doing that pitch via email, it's not a face-to-face pitch. The same way it is that we're going to be discussing, holding that face-to-face conversation. We're going to prepare that mail in that same format. So we prepare the mail, we read it. So when we read it also through the mind of our audience, so that it's going to make good sense, right? So we don't just write and we just discard it, or we just send it like that. So when we write the content of those mail, we want to be certain that at the end of the day, whoever it is that is on the other end that is reading it gets to understand what we are saying. We're not just writing so much ambiguously that the message is lost. So we talked about conducting a research in trying to write a pitch or to prepare a pitch. That's we're preparing a write-up for a pitch, possibly via an email or the one that needs to be pushed out through digital marketing platforms. Then it means that we need to conduct a research, understand the audience that we want to discuss with them, create the content, go ahead and share success stories, answer questions, and follow up with the prospect. Okay, so now of course, the pitch, like I've said earlier, that the pitch itself that we're trying to work on is going to focus on existing problems, right? The problem of the prospect, the problem of the customer, the solution that the company provides about the company, the value that we provide, the success stories, and call to action. I've said a whole lot on this already. I've said a whole lot on this already. So summarizing that, I say that the pitch is supposed to focus on existing problems, the solution about the company, then the value and the value that the value that this solution is going to add to that particular client or to the prospect, right? Then the success stories, and at the end of the day, a call to action. Okay, so now I think this we are almost end to an end of this particular on the pitch. So now, how do we now present a pitch? Now, take for instance, we just talked about when in writing. Now, what about the when we have to make a speech or when we have to present that pitch orally? We have to engage with people directly, even though we are making that speech, right? So one of the major things that we need to do is to get our emotions together. We're not overly excited. We're not also angry. We're not showing too much of an emotion about whatever it is that we intend to sell, of course. But that level of excitement, there's some level of excitement that is required about the product or the solution that we intend to bring. Because if you're bringing good news, you're excited about the good news. So that solution that we're bringing is the good news, right? To the prospect. So we have to gather emotions together. Then another thing to consider here in presenting the pitch is that we must introduce ourselves. So you don't just dabble and start holding a conversation without properly introducing yourself, your name, who you are, your designation, the company you work for, right? Very much important, and the reason why you want to hold this conversation with them. Then you want to go ahead and now ask questions to find out one, if it's a good time to hold this conversation with such a person, if they have like 2 or 3 minutes to spare, and within that timeline, you work within that timeline to deliver the message. Okay, so now you want to find out. So if they have that 2 or 3 minutes to spare, you want to find out. So maybe through questioning about a particular solution, a particular challenge. If they've heard about this, or they heard about that, or if they have, or if they've experienced something like this before, experienced something like that before, talking about the problem, right? Then you're now focusing on the solution that your organization provides to solve or to salvage such um, challenge or such problem. Now, discussing more of that is talking about the product, and also on that is talking about the solution itself now, and on the features of that particular solution that the organization provides. Then we'll go ahead to talk about answering questions. Of course, you can solicit for questions from that particular prospect so that they get to understand. Because when there's a two-way communication, it's much more easier. So it's not like you just say, being the one talking and assuming that they understand. It shouldn't be so. So when you talk, you allow them also ask questions or engage in. Let it just be a conversation, and not just like you are the one give, like, more like, no, let not be an instruction, but more like a conversation where they have to say something or add their own opinion, um, give maybe objections or resentment. And in the cases where you have objections, you have, like we talked earlier about objections, rejections, right? Earlier when we are talking about how do we manage them. So I guess some tips about managing those rejections. So the process, how we engaged and who we engage. So all this information that we've gathered about our method of engagement, what we've been saying, how we've been saying it. If we need to make proper changes, right? We ensure that we make changes. Remember that when we have these things consistently, we're not just making changes in the first person that we'll just discuss with, because that person might just not be the right person in the first instance. Then, even if they're right, it might not be the right time to have that conversation. So you don't just change the strategy immediately, right? Because one person has just objected. So if they are giving an objection, if they can be kind enough to give you a reason why they are objecting, it's going to help with the next person that you're going to be talking to, or even with them. Possibly, maybe if the objection is coming from the place where you can correct and help them and reposition their perspective properly. So I think that will help. So if they give an objection, you want to find out why they are objecting kindly, kindly enough. Then go ahead to negotiate where needed, follow up on the prospect, or ask for referrals. Of course, this is when there's patronage where we can now ask for referrals. We'll be following up already for us to convert to sales where it's required. Okay, that said, I think we've done so much justice on that. Let's go ahead to now talk about sales. So we've discussed so much about that. So we'll now go ahead and talk about sales. We've talked about marketing. We talked about presenting, doing the pitch. So now, what sales will now definitely be is selling that product or the services. So now we've done the marketing. We've done that is that pitch. Is that marketing? We've done the pitch, spoken to the prospect, we should now expect them to make a purchase decision at the end of the day. So that selling that particular, that is sales in itself, is now the activity of selling that product which we engaged in, of course, in the first instance. And the process have always been a presentation of the product or the services, managing the objections and follow up, holding the negotiation and closing deals, and afterwards we manage the relationship. Okay, so this brings us to an end of this part, the third step, which we just considered as the third session, which we just considered. And thus far, we've talked about business development, we talked about sales prospecting, then we just finished considering marketing and sales. Now, I'll just go ahead and talk about the last one in this place, which is just relationship management. Okay, I think we should be able to sort this out in less than a few minutes now. So at least in 10 to 15 minutes, we should be done with that. So we can just quickly take questions. We're shooting out of time already. Okay, so now this brings us to the fourth and the final part of this session, which is in relationship management. Now that we are into the business development, we've done our sales prospecting, we've done our marketing, we've done our pitch, then we've concluded we've made sales. Now, are we just walking away? What else do we need? What follows up from here? That's where relationship management comes in. So we now manage this relationship continuously. Now, relationship management does not practically mean that sales has already been made. Then we can now begin to talk about relationship management. Relationship management can even practically have stemmed from the time where we begin to make our pitch. That's where we begin to, from the place of prospecting. We want to begin to manage that relationship right from that particular time. So now let's talk about relationship management practically. So it's just the process of creating, maintaining, and enhancing positive relationship with the customer or the client. And the goal of the relationship management is just to um, have make sales on the long run. So the essence of relationship management is that in business development is at the end of the day, even if it is in 30 days time, in 2 months time, 3 months time, in 4 months time, at least this client is going to make sales, right? That relationship will now yield results. That is what will now yield the basic result that it requires. Now, take for instance, I find myself in real estate. Now, I understand the fact that in real estate, it's not every day that people make acquisitions or people make purchases, right? It's not every day that people buy. So now, in that instance, it's not every like the same. Each person that is one person keeps buying and buying and buying every day. So it's not like an FMCG product, maybe like a dairy product that has to be purchased maybe like weekly. That's not they are not the same case. But at least most people make purchases like that once a year or twice in a year, right? So in such instances, we manage that relationship to ensure that by the time this person will be needing this, right, you'll be the go-to person to reach out to because you've already had a relationship with such prospect. Because so you've built a relationship with the prospect. So it's just for them to make a decision and say, okay, oh, I need to meet with Shola. Shola has been pitching me for this. I need to reach out to Okon. I think I have a friend, and Okon has been the one talking to me about this all along. Then, and they say maybe possibly Usman, Neka, the rest of that. So this is just exactly what we are talking about here, that a relationship has been ongoing because this is one of the things that happen sometimes when it comes to business development. Now, take for instance, when if we need to celebrate our birthdays, right? If we need to celebrate our birthdays, uh, uh, one of the things that we do when it comes to okay, we want to get cake for the birthday, or want someone that's going to plan the birthday. I mean, personally, we just handing it over to a planner, to a birthday planner. What to just look out for? Okay, do we have a friend who's practically a planner? This is the first person that you reach out to, and if you have a friend or you have somebody within your circle of influence, so they are the person that you just reach out to plan the birthday for you, to plan the events for you. That's just how it works, right? We're starting with the circle of influence. That's the relationship management. So being a part and parcel of that person's possibly maybe their weekly activity and the rest of it, you're sending them mails, sending them like trying to build that relationship or maintain that relationship. There are different ways right how this relationship are built. So these are the things that help to drive or to help that makes business development persons successful on the road. So I think now it's very clear how business development comes in, how relationship management comes into business development, and what the importance that it yields for us. I just made mention of when people have needs, one of the things that the first place of that they look out for is with their contact list. Find out somebody who is already providing the service in their contact list. If they don't have within their contact, then they can begin to look elsewhere. Okay, then we'll go ahead to talk about factors of relationship management. Now, in managing relationship, right? One of the key things to look out for is communication. Now, communication is key in relationship management. Now, communication here we've discussed and discussed so much on it. We've talked about um, that communication is that the other person at the end or at the end of the communication channel should understand, should know, like should receive and understand with clarity the message that is being passed across. So if the person receives it but does not understand the message, does not understand the message that is being communicated, it means there was no communication in the first instance. Yes, they received the content of the message, but they never understood the message. So there was no communication. So it means the message has to be clear, concise enough. It has to be clear, and it has to be very much it has to be in a format so that they can understand what is being communicated the first instance, the messages that is contained um, in the communication. Then interaction. We're talking about interaction here. We're saying a two-way interaction. We mean that the parties that are involved, there needs to be a response, soliciting for a response. So there are some communications, or there are some communications that require the response. So, but we want to promote communications that will require a response, require interactions, require engagement. So that's one of the things that builds relationship, right? Then these are the things that at the end of the day, it brings about loyalty, satisfaction, risk mitigation, and efficiency. Now, also, when it comes to factors that help with relationship management, we're talking about loyalty here now. Third on the list, loyalty. In relationship, from yesterday's training, we talked about loyalty management. A satisfied customer, one of the major things that they do is that they become loyal to the brand. Over time, as long as they get satisfied, they love the quality of the service that is being provided by organization on a consistent basis. They means that they've found them worthy to be trusted. So they become loyal customers to those brands. They make decisions defaultly but to support or to choose that brand over and over the competition from time to time. Okay, then when I talk about satisfaction, as long as a customer is satisfied, or somebody who has previously purchased the product or the services are satisfied with the product or the services, then of course the relationship it helps in managing relationship. So if the customer is dissatisfied, there's an issue, but relationship management will help to sort out issues about customer satisfaction, because while managing that customer's expectation and satisfaction, we find out that we can ensure that the customer is satisfied for every product or for the services that they purchase per time with the organization. Then risk management, efficiency as well. These things help us to manage relationship. So the efficiency of the service, efficiency of the product, or the effectiveness of the service, effectiveness of the product that is being offered to the customer. These things help to improve on the relationship. Okay, finally, on this list of what we're talking about, so what are the benefits of relationship management, right? The major things, that is why do we even consider them in the first instance? I've made mention about them, but I'm going to be talking about some other things that um, relationship management would help would assist with regards to business development. One of them is feedback. So in relationship management, we're able to get feedbacks, right? When customers or clients are offended, or when they are not happy with the brand, or when they have opinions or suggestions on ways that we can improve our processes, innovate, or create new variants of our products or services, varieties of our product and services. Of course, we get these feedbacks through the relationship of the customer and the brand, or the customer and the business development team. Then we're going to talk about efficiency. So with relationship management, we can improve the efficiency of our products, of our services, and of our relation of our interaction and engagement with our customers. Then it also improves brand loyalty. So relationship management will definitely boost brand loyalty, because a satisfied customer will always stay with the brand and choose the brand over and over the competition. Then ultimately it will result to revenue growth for the organization, and it gives them a competitive advantage over the markets with which they have found themselves. So these are the basic things that we have in as benefits of relationship management in business development. And I will just leave them here. So these key things that we discussed about thus far help us to function effectively as business development person. But as we find ourselves in this department, further trainings will now be provided, possibly in-house, and they'll become even much more streamlined, more like a product training and the implementation of the sales in itself. So it brings us to a close with regards to all that we have just talked about thus far. Okay, so this is all. So thus far, what we have considered is we talked about the basics of business development. Then we went ahead to discuss about sales prospecting. We considered marketing and sales, and now we've just concluded the entire conversation with relationship management. So now it brings us to a close. And at this point, I want to take your questions thus far. Please begin to drop your questions. I would like to take at least three or four questions, and we can bring this session to a close. So I can go prepare for the last um, training for this program. Okay, that will be all. I let the questions come in now. I'll be expecting your questions right away. Please drop your questions so I can take them right away. And in the instance where there are no questions, it means we might have to bring the session to a close now. Okay, so okay, so when we talk about, okay, somebody is saying what is sales prospect. Okay, prospects in sales are practically potential buyers, people who fall within the category. When we have finished profiling now, so if this person is capable, they are willing, they have the capacity, they have the resources, what the solution we provide meets their need, they fall within our prospect. So that practically means that they are prospects to our sales. They are prospects, they are sales prospects. So at the end of the day, we're expecting that we can be able to sell to them. So in a nutshell, sales prospects are people that we can practically sell to, right? We can sell to, and we can be sure that they will buy from us. So these are sales prospects. Okay, so someone is saying steps to prepare. I just finished discussing about that so you can just take a review, and wisdom, please can just take a review of the session. I will not have to go back. I'm talking about something that is different from what I have not said thus far, or questions that emanate from what I have said thus far. Not trying to make me go back to the slides again. Okay, so what it is so the question, so the difference between business development and entrepreneurship development, as well as attributes of a business developer and an entrepreneur. Okay, so now the entrepreneur is different from if we're going to if this training was being done, like take for instance, there's business development in entrepreneurship for entrepreneurs, right? But they are not the same thing with what we just did. The content of what we're going to be discussing, if we're going to take this training as entrepreneurs, is going to be completely different. Now, who are entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs are people who do their own business, right? They run their own business on a day-to-day basis, small scale businesses. It might be small scale businesses, it might be medium or large scale businesses. They are entrepreneurs, but they run their own personal businesses. But a business developer themselves practically are more like salesmen, right? They push for opportunities, they identify and push for revenue growth. They push for sales and revenue growth opportunities for a product or for a service. So it can be for an organization, it can be for themselves. But if they do it for themselves, then that's more like be as entrepreneurs. They do it for themselves as entrepreneurs, or they could do it for other organizations as business development persons or business development executive. I hope that is clear enough, Franklin. So, and the attributes for entrepreneurship, of course, we're not discussing entrepreneurship here. We just we just discussed about some key attributes for the business development person. We talked about your willingness, we talked about courage, we talked about smartness, right? These are attributes, socialization. Uh, these are a lot of the attributes that we considered earlier while we started this conversation, where we even had to take some assessments amongst ourselves here to understand at what stage do we begin to yield, or do we begin to balk in the weight of rejection, or some object or the objection of the product or the service that we are trying to offer to the prospect. So these are the things. So, but we're not considering entrepreneurship at this stage. So we'll not be delving into. We don't completely distract or deviate from what we are doing. So we're just considering business development as a business development officer. Remember, I told you something that if we're considering business development as entrepreneurs, the content of this training will, even though they are similar, but it will be much more different. We have a different training for that. Even business development as business development managers and supervisors, the content for the training are different from what we're considering now. And the same thing, they are different to for the entrepreneurs, because what we're going to be considering will be different, and the approach the consideration are practically different. They are not the same. Okay, I said so much on that. Ozzy said identifying and contacting possible prospects. Okay, sales prospects. Okay, and we're just reiterating. So Wisdom is saying, what are the steps to preparing for a speech and write-up? Please, I will not repeat what I have said earlier before. I just talked about the preparation of this. In fact, I made mention of it. There are over 3 slides on that. So I kept on making reference to it over and over again. So please, okay, hold on. Just a minute so I can just, okay. So I think I was saying what are the steps to preparing for a pitch. Okay, so we talked about when it comes to pitch writing. Take for instance, you want to it's you have to send that pitch like a documented one, send it via mail. The basic things to do will be to conduct a research. You want to understand the organization or maybe the person that you're writing to, if it's an individual, you want to conduct a research, right? You want to conduct a research, you want to understand that particular person that you're reaching out to. How that particular solution the organization provides solves a problem for them. So we are paying close attention to it. Then we'll go ahead to talk about the solution. We're now making reference to the solution that is being provided by the organization. And by that, we can go on to share success stories about how that solution has solved those problems that the client or that the prospect also has. That target audience also has. So now by doing that, we can go ahead to even now request for questions. So in case they have questions or they wish to place a call or they wish to conduct that is for a physical meeting or to schedule for a meeting, you can now go ahead and schedule for such. So these are steps that you can do. Then of course you have to do follow up. Then when I was talking about the follow up in the right model, I was talking about the 3 days model. After you've done reached out to such a person, you want to give them some time. You're not the only person, or your what solution you want to provide is not the only solution that they are looking at. There are other things that they do, right? So you don't want to just dabble and choke them with what you're doing. You want to give them some time. So a 48 to 72 hours timeline is good. So before you can send another reminder, so that the person has some time to practically go through what you are doing. So for some people, you even have to send reminders up to 3 or 4 times before they even respond to the mail that you're sent. Now speak for instance that we're now preparing for a physical pitch that want to hold that pitch on one-on-one. One of the major things that we will do in it is to gather our emotions together, right? So take for instance, maybe we had possibly maybe like a different conversation before we're getting to that part to the venue of the speech of this pitch now. It means possibly maybe we might have encountered different issues and our emotions might not be just right. So we want to put ourselves in the right frame of mind, the right emotion. Then, when this is done, we introduce ourselves. So, introduction is there where we talk about ourselves, we talk about the direction we're coming from, our designation, why we are here, why we want to hold this conversation. Then, you want to ask about certain challenges, right? You want to ask questions to understand. Now, you're trying to break into that's begin the conversation. So, you're asking questions to understand challenges with regards to the solution that you have. So by asking those questions, the prospect is going to reply, right? So you replying, you now bring forth the solution that you have within your focus. So by bringing forth the solution, you go ahead to ask more questions so that there can be a mutual understanding, right? So you're asking more questions, you are providing more solution, more answers. They're asking the person more questions, you are providing more answers, and at the end of the day, there's a level of communication that must have been reached. Then possibly at the end of the day, the prospect can now decide to object or to agree to proceed either to make decisions and the rest of that, or ask request for some time to make decisions. Now, if they object, then one of the major things that you can use that you can take that objection to advantages by finding out why did they object. So you can get that when you get information about why they objected in the first instance. So it will help you to improve if you get information about why the reasons why they objected, so you can improve on the next person that you're reaching out to on your next speech. So with that, um, it moves us to the next one. So if they did not object, then we can go ahead to hold negotiations around that particular solutions, then do a follow up on that prospect so that we can close on sales and we can ask for referrals should they be satisfied with it. Okay, so I don't think I will need to get any more question in that line again. Um, I've said so much on that already. Okay, now I think the next question is saying sales prospect the same as the target market. Okay, yes, they're the same. Where the prospects, that's those sales prospects are practically your target market. Yes, they are. Then the next person talks about what are the limitations of um, or the downsides of this approach. Please, I don't know the approach you are making reference to. That's Blessing Ololade. Please let me understand what you mean by the approach. Okay. Osita Anthony says it's personal relationship. Um, in personal relationship, kindly explain the mode and tone of engagement. Is it purely professional and or personal, considering the fact you are a representative? Of course, as long as when it comes to business relationships, it has to be professional. It's 100% professional, right? Even though you want to create a personal experience, you want to break the barriers, but everything has to remain professional, right? At no time do um, we begin to like where maybe you so become so familiar with the with the prospect or the clients such that maybe other conversations, first maybe throw some jabs and the rest of that. That if in case there's a personal, because there's some clients now they've moved away from prospect, they're no longer prospect. Possibly maybe these clients that are making reference to were your friends or they are now your friends. They are a different thing. So now there is now a personal relationship there because they are your friends, right? So even though that they are your friends, but you see things has to have to still remain professional. They are your friends does not mean maybe some level of see finish or insult to start coming in, or some level of conversation that is not as unprofessional start coming in. So if it's as long as it's something that has to do with you with work, it has to remain professional, right? If you're outside of work, if we're no longer doing work, maybe outside of work hours, we can become friends. But as long as you are working during that particular timeline, everything is professional. So, but once it's outside of work, then you can go and have personal relationship, can just the way you want, talk the way you want, address. So, besides that, they are just your clients. So, but when it's outside of work, then they can become your friend. I think that is that. Okay. Um. Finally, okay. Innocent is saying, what is business development? No, I cannot come and start taking all those again. Please find some time, go through all I said from the beginning, right? Go through all I said from the beginning. If you started much more earlier, you won't be asking this question. So we just talked about that even the business development. Okay, now let me just answer that. So business development is the process or the activity of identifying opportunities for sales, identifying that is prospecting and identifying opportunities for sales and revenue growth. That is business development. But please, let's find time to go through all that was because if you're asking questions like this, practically means it's either you joined late or you were not listening, or you were not giving all your attention while I was saying these things. So if I will answer that una innocent, what I practically said is business development is the activity of identifying opportunities for sales and revenue growth. That is just what business development is all about. Identifying and implementing activities that will drive sales and revenue growth. That's in a nutshell. That's what business development is all about. Okay, so somebody saying the difference between sales prospect and target market. There's practically no much of a difference between sales prospect and target audience because it is by creating your target audience that is by creating the target market, by identifying the target market, that you discover the sales prospect. I said that earlier. Now when we try to when we're doing that research and we're trying to understand who has the capacity to buy, who are we selling to, who should we sell to, right? We're trying to identify the sales prospects through that. So the target market, that pool, right? That pool of people or that group of people are now that target market. They will now single them out each of them now become sales prospects. I don't know if that is clear. So that pool are the target market. That pool are the target market. So for this particular product that the opposition is selling, or this particular solution that the opposition has provided, that pool of people that qualify to be sold to, they are the target market. They are the target audience, right? That pool of people, they are the target audience. But now the sales prospects in itself, people that we have now identified, how to reach out to them, that all those details, how when we are so they become so they are now promising, because in that pool they are ready people who are willing to that is, we're talking about low hanging fruits now. They are immediately that we immediately reach out to them, they are willing to make purchases ASAP. Their their sales prospects, right? So there are some of them that will remain in the pipeline, right, for some time. I talked about the some who will be ripe enough in 3 months, in 6 months. I talked about all this in the previous. So if just pay close attention to, maybe you can just take all that I've said thus far. You understand that I made mention about all these things about the target market and the sales prospect. So I think I've discussed so much. Chinyere Beatrice, I don't know if that explanation is good enough, that if that was good enough for you. So somebody says is speech and speech the same thing. Please, these are two different English words. They cannot be the same thing in the person's stance. They are not the same. Speech is just like what I'm saying now. That's speech. But pitch, we're talking about here, is marketing pitch. That thing that you construct properly. You write those, how you write, you present that details in such a way that so that the person can buy, can make their purchase decision. That is what is called pitch, marketing pitch, right? They are different. Speech is just like I am talking now, right? I'm just making that. I'm like what's coming from. I'm making speech, right? That's what it is. But pitch is different. Pitch is that all what I'm writing, all what I would prepare in order for somebody to now make a purchase decision. That is called pitch. Okay. Um. Okay. I think that is all. If there are no further questions, um, so far, so we can just end the session. We have other. That's the last class to attend to. All right. I think that will be all for now. Enjoy the rest of the day and thank you for your time. See you in the next class that starts by 12. All right.